Today's episode is brought to you by Roborock, bringing you the latest in home cleaning technology. Roborock's Crevo Edge is ready to give you your time back. It's designed to tackle everything from carpets to hard floors with precision. With cutting-edge AI and smart home mapping, this robot vacuum and mop combo adapts to your home, efficiently navigating every room and every corner. Plus, its sleek design fits seamlessly into any space. It's clear that Roborock's Crevo Edge is becoming a fast favourite with Aussies. No more stressing over home cleaning. For more information and to discover the future of home cleaning, head to au.roborock.com.
Hey, Ray.
Hey, Tegan.
Do you want to hear something weird about retrofuturism?
Always one of my favourites, please. Thank you.
Oh, I love it so much. For anyone who is unfamiliar with the term, I'm willing to bet that you do actually know what it is. You know, 1950s, 1960s aesthetic that has been mixed in with futuristic but still kind of retro designs. The thing I always think of, Ray, is like the Jetsons. Or
Yes.
for fans of games like me, my favorite franchise of all time, Fallout.
Yes, or like Astro Boy has that little housekeeping robot.
There is, of course, a more generalized term for it, which is a movement in the creative arts that shows the influence of depictions of the future in an earlier era. So essentially just this idea of what people in the past thought that the future was going to look like. And we've kind of found that a lot of it might be a little bit out there sometimes, but some of it actually was pretty legit. Like they got a lot right.
They sure did. Like when I think of retrofuturism now, I also think of the design of some of those old school style fridges and toasters and kettles that you see that are like in all those pastel colors with the rounded edges.
Yes.
And it's a real design era for household products that I love. I adore the aesthetic of, and those big Aga ovens, they're so ludicrously expensive. But they don't have any kind of high-tech features in them whatsoever. It really is just preying on people like you and I that love the aesthetic.
100%. I will put my hand up and say that I'm an absolute sucker for everything like that. I adore it. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that today and really about what have we actually seen come to fruition, like in the real world, and what really have we not?
I think one of my favorite examples looking at like companion robots from the past as
Rosie.
Right? Yeah. Thinking about Rosie the robot from Jetsons, I was like, what actually existed back in the day that is something like that? And I discovered Elektro.
What's Elektro?
Elektro was one of the first celebrity robots. He was built by Westinghouse. So washers, dryers, vacuum cleaners, those folks.
Yeah.
To show off how technologically advanced the company was. And they took him to the World's Fair in New York.
Of course they did. I mean, that has always just been like the place to see everything exciting and new that was coming up. Actually, I would say that retrofuturism really does remind me of the World's Fair as well, but not so much that like kind of aesthetic that we were talking about, but even more like steampunky.
My first introduction to the World's Fair, that it even existed and was a thing, was when BioShock Infinite was released. The PR people, along with the review copy of the game, sent out a copy of this book called Devil in a White City, and it was all about the World's Fair. And I was suddenly introduced to this whole world, and I've just been fascinated by it ever since.
Yeah.
Elektro was one of those attractions at the World's Fair, and I can imagine him fitting in with this BioShock type world as well.
Yeah.
Really fascinating because it was 1939. It was right at the end of that Art Deco type era, all that stylistic stuff. And he was joined at this World's Fair by Sparko, who was a robot dog that could bark and sit and beg to humans. But the things that Elektro could do, he really was the definition of a companion robot in the sense that he didn't really do anything practical. He could blow up balloons and he could tell jokes and he smoked cigarettes
It's the 30s. Like, okay, fine, all right.
He moved his arms and he walked around and he had photoelectric eyes that could tell the difference between red and green,
Whoa.
which was about as advanced as he got. But when World War II kicked off, the public fascination with Elektro kind of faded because he was the most famous robot in the world at that point.
Yeah.
He ended up in a basement somewhere. I know, right?
I guess I get it. Like, it's World War II. People have some pretty practical problems that they need to deal with. And this happens so often that it's interesting because you find that a lot of technology that is even seemingly like really cutting edge now has actually been around for a lot longer than what people might realize. And similar to that,
Absolutely.
I always think about EVs and how it was actually, Ford, like Henry Ford, that originally was tied up in that entire time because there were EVs around when he was bringing out the T Model Ford. And it was actually a favorite of his wife. She's like, screw you, I want my little EV. Issues with it, obviously, but that's way earlier than people would have thought.
Yeah, 100%. And when we're at these big tech conventions, looking at robots walking around on stage, being companions to people, keeping them company and doing things like telling them jokes, they might not be smoking cigarettes, but
they're vaping.
Oh no, vape bots.
Vape bots.
You don't need vape bots.
No one needs that.
No.
one needs it. No.
Elektro was eventually discarded in this basement. There was a movie called Sex Kittens Go to College in the 80s that he made a cameo with.
No.
And he ended up, I know, and he ended up going on national tour. If you go to Ohio, of all places now, he's on display in the Mansfield Memorial Museum.
Oh, God
bless. That's where he's spending his days. But I think it's just really interesting that you think about all these robots that are meant to mimic human behavior. And it was happening back in 1939.
Yeah,
it's like, how do we make robot versions of ourselves and take them on world tours?
And nearly 100 years later, we are freshly fascinated by them again. Like, we were just at CES, and even we, in all of our cold, black, dead hearts, were getting pretty charmed by some of these, home robot companions.
Absolutely.
Speaking of homes and robots, there is something that I wanted to bring up in the whole retrofuturism world, if I may.
Please do.
So I wanted to talk about the House of the Future that was in Disneyland across the mid-80s to 1960s. So this is actually very interesting. So Walt Disney was a huge futurist and had installed a full-blown retrofuturistic looking house of what they thought that the home of the future would look like in sort of like the 80s.
This sounds like the best CES booth ever, honestly.
Yes, actually. So this was installed in Tomorrowland, and it was interesting because Tomorrowland's still around. There was a movie, I think, about 10 years ago about it that depicts different views of the future, right? But it was also one of the last places in Disneyland to be built, so it was super rushed. And as a result, trying to fill this space, it basically became a corporate showcase, kind of like CES.
What do you mean? What ended up in there?
So you had displays from like American Motors, an oil company was in there, and then Monsanto, which was a chemical company that made plastics, which is why it was called the Monsanto Home of the Future.
They're the ones that do all the genetically modified crops now, right?
I don't know.
I believe so, yeah.
Well, back then, plastic was all the rage, not genetically modified crops, because still a pretty new phenomena at the time, and so they were really trying to push big plastic. So this house, everything was plastic. It was curved walls, like molded furniture in that kind of modernist design that we're talking about. But the whole underlying message was plastic. And the idea was that people in the future would probably stop using brick and wood for building and move more towards that synthetic, indestructible homes, which makes sense because it was post, World War II, dropping of the bomb.
Yes.
Like, people were very concerned about this kind of thing. So indestructible homes was kind of really important in the zeitgeist at the time.
Just remembered where I knew Monsanto from. They're the ones that made Agent Orange.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
So real good that they had pride of place in Disney's House of
Sure.
Tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, good stuff. I love history. But I wanted to go through a bit of this house to see what they got
Yeah.
right. So one of the things that were in there was this basically a wall-mounted flat screen, and it was all white and covered. It almost looked like it could have been designed by Apple. Honestly.
Wow.
Yeah, if you look it up, like I please like Google this if you like so you can see what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
it was such a contrast to the time because TVs then were, massive wooden boxes. They hadn't been around for
Yeah.
like that long compared to now.
Big chunky things.
20, 30 years, that kind of thing. And they kind of doubled as furniture. So this was its own sleek thing. And I would say that, yes, I think this got it right. It was OLEDing before OLEDs. I'm going to give this one a pass, I think.
Is this still there?
No, so and we will get to that because that is very interesting. It was there for about 10 years and it was never really intended to be this kind of permanent exhibit, but so many people ended up fascinated by it, like people just coming through it. So they just kept it up.
That's amazing.
It was so interesting. One of the other things that they showcased was an automated kitchen. So basically designed to eliminate housework. We've heard this a lot before,
Yes.
kitchen robots and things. So one of the things that it had that sounds awesome is an ultrasonic dishwasher, which was meant to clean dishes with sound waves.
That is really cool. That would work.
Apparently it didn't, but I mean, we haven't got them yet. But I love the idea of that. That's really cool. And I don't know, we've got some very high tech dishwashers now, so I give that a pass. The other thing it had was a microwave oven. So this whole idea of being able to just make dinner super easy. We definitely have that. We definitely have connected versions and more robotic versions of that.
Yeah.
And as well as pre-programmed cooking machines. So kind of like the 1950s version of a smart oven, which was definitely a thing.
Right. Yes, of course.
Yeah, so I'd say that's definitely passed the test. So I think when it came to the things that were in this house, like kind of robots of the future, it was definitely correct. The only one I would say was not right, but man, I wish that it was a self-cleaning house, particularly a bathroom where built-in air and water jets were just meant to sanitize just everything.
They have those.
Really?
But you know what? They're not in houses, they're in public toilets.
Yes, like those little boxes.
Yes, so there is a public toilet that I visited in Lithgow, of all places. And it's one of those fully automated ones where you just kind of wave your hand.
You're right.
And the door opens and you sit down and it, detects whether or not you're still sitting down or not. It plays music so no one can hear your noises. When you stand up, you don't press any kind of button to flush.
Yeah.
The toilet automatically starts flushing as you start washing your hands, which is also sensor controlled, right? And it has a full self-cleaning mode for when no one is in there. It just hoses itself down, deodorizes itself, disinfects itself, dries itself. We just need to install public toilets in our houses.
Yes, you're right. With some elements, you're right. I was wrong. That's such a good point because I knew about those. I just didn't connect the dots because even just recently there was a story about a resident in, I would say, an inner city suburb, I won't say which one, who was up in arms about one of these being installed in the local community and basically said something along the lines of like, they're probably all right for Bankstown, but get them out of here, like your classic.
What is the problem with them?
I don't know. But you're right. They do exist, so it passes.
They're the world's fanciest public toilets. I don't know what the complaint would be. Come on. What do they want? A hole in the ground? Is that going to be better for them? Come on.
I know, but you did mention something earlier, Ray, and it'll be the last point that I make is that how long did it hang around for? So it was so futuristic that they kind of couldn't get rid of it. When Disney tried to shut this down in 1967, the plastic was so strong that the wrecking balls were bouncing off it.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. We just needed to recycle that plastic, turn it into something else.
Yep. They had to come in with chainsaws and choker chains to rip it apart piece by piece. So I guess they weren't wrong about the indestructible bit.
My gosh, that's all I can think of when I think about how hardy and strong this plastic is the work of Dr. Veena Sahajwala, who opens up all of those micro factories in communities and uses the waste from those areas to create products that they need. And she's recently opened up an e-waste recycling service in Lane Cove,
Wow.
in a fancy suburb of
Sure.
Sydney, right? But one of the things that they focus on is not just recycling, things like chips and batteries, which is what you think of with e-waste, but the polymers, the plastics, because they are such high quality plastics.
Yeah.
The things that they can turn them into are incredible. But previously they were going to landfill because the recycling services couldn't take them on. It just wasn't practical. So I feel like, Disney's, what was it called? House of the Future? Land of Tomorrow?
It was in Tomorrowland, and it was like the home of the future.
The home of the future in Tomorrowland needed a micro factory nearby to turn it into like a new ride or something, or a new little robot to go around the theme park and serve people tea and stuff.
Absolutely.
I do say that as a segue, Tegan.
I
A
love
very
it.
good segue.
Perfect.
Because I recently found out about Harakuri. Do you know about Harakuri?
I don't know what this is, and I'm very excited to find out.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm telling you something about history. So, in Japan, in the 17th to 20th centuries, there were Harakuri, basically mechanized dolls that really wealthy homes had, that were built mostly for entertainment purposes. So, they used them for like puppet shows and things like that. But some of them were built to serve tea or sake in these homes.
Wait, so sorry, did I just hear those centuries right of when they
Correct.
had
Yes.
like robo dolls essentially?
Yes, like
What?
1600s all the way through to the 1900s.
God bless Japan. God
Right.
bless.
They were just these mechanized robot dolls that they had going around these incredibly wealthy homes. And the tradition of Karakuri, the whole idea of it is on the art of concealing technology, with the belief that it would evoke feelings and emotions more effectively,
Oh my
that you would become more emotionally bonded to your mechanized, aka robot companion in your home if the technology is hidden, if it is something that is deemed as beautiful and, shall I say, even cute. And what does that remind you of, Tegan?
It reminds me of her. No, it reminds me of exactly what we're dealing with now, which is AI girlfriends and like realistic,
Right.
robotic waifus and whatnot. Like it's
And
crazy.
every single home assistant powered by AI that we saw at CES that was in the form of a cute robot, and all you could see was a little LED screen and these big eyes looking at you. You're not seeing the inner workings of how it works.
No.
What the software is doing, the data it's collecting, what it's
recording.
feeding back to you, what it's recording. All you are seeing is this aesthetically beautiful, cute, emotionally rich robot that you have feelings for, that is in your home serving you. We've gone full circle.
So many times we're like, oh, that's emotion. And
I want them.
Hundreds of years ago they had it. Like humanity has not changed.
It really hasn't. Hide the mechanisms behind what it's actually doing, and we want 10 of them.
Yep. Is it in purple? Can I have it in purple? Like genuinely. Oh my God.
Isn't this amazing? When I saw the dates on this, my mind was completely blown. I thought I'd gotten it completely wrong. But no, it's not just, the Art Deco era. It's not just the 50s and 60s that we were seeing, visions of the future that involved robots and home companions and home robots helping us out around the house. 1600s Japan. They had working, mechanized home robot companions serving you tea. I don't even have that now.
No, I want that. What is going on? No, you're right, because that isn't even retrofuturism. Like even, and let's take the aesthetics out of it. Like the baseline idea of it is imagining the future and what it might look like. They had it. They actually had it. And now
they actually had it.
A month ago, we were at the biggest consumer technology show in the world, where the things that were being showcased the most as the cutting edge for your home were these little robots doing either a bunch of things for you or very individual things like serving tea.
Yep.
My God.
There is not an original thought among the entire human population, Tegan.
This is why I love history. That's amazing. And I'm so excited that I had literally never heard of that.
Right? And this is why I love tech, because it does give me hope that one day, in the near future, I will get my little robot companion that will bring me a cup of tea. Today's episode of Weird Tech was brought to you by Roborock, bringing you the latest in home cleaning technology. Roborock's Crevo Edge is ready to give you your time back. It's designed to tackle everything from carpets to hard floors with precision. With cutting-edge AI and smart home mapping, this robot vacuum and mop combo adapts to your home, efficiently navigating every room, every corner. Plus, its sleek design fits seamlessly into any space. It's clear that Roborock's Crevo Edge is becoming a fast favourite with Aussies. No more stressing over home cleaning. For more information and to discover the future of home cleaning, head to au.roborock.com.